Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. His name is Jeffrey. He grew up in a small farm in Ohio, came from a broken family, and ran away from home to join the Peace Corps at the age of 20. He became a successful businessman and ventured ultimately to becoming a CIA operations officer. He was instrumental in keeping the world safe by monitoring weapons of mass destruction. He considers himself blessed to have had the opportunities to serve and protect and defend the American people. He currently still works in security and is a public speaker. Jeffrey, how are you today?
Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. So, before we get dive into all the great things you have going on, and I know a little bit more about you because I got the opportunity to collaborate and read your latest books or one of your latest books. But before we get there, tell me a little bit about your upbringing, right? So you grew up in Ohio, came from a broken family. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Ohio in the 1970s. I was born in 1959, so the 60s and the 70s. If you look at the statistics, and I actually looked recently, the divorce rate at that time was climbing. And so my parents were part of that climb. Um, I have a sister and two brothers. And so, my older brother was, I think, 18 when my parents split. So he was off to college. My sister was 16, so she was pretty well established. I think I was 11. So I was
Yeah,
very unestablished. Um, so yeah, and I'm not looking for sympathy here at all because,
right,
millions of families go through this every year.
right.
And the only way when I look back to how I was able to persevere was simply I refused to accept failure. That has been my motivation pretty much my entire life since then because I saw what a failed marriage can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get through the day, you put up with step siblings, and I have a lot of them. Both parents remarried. I'm not going to criticize any of them because there's no gain in that.
Right.
Uh, that's ancient history. I'm not even going to criticize my parents, step parents. Again, there's no gain. I don't live in the past.
Yeah,
We're talking a
exactly.
long
That
time
that's
ago.
right. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get to. Right. At the end of the day, again, you said two things that are very critical. Number one is you refuse to accept failure. That's number one. The second thing is you're not living in the past, and the lesson to that I believe is one of the things that I tell people is that sometimes. Unfortunately, many people, they tend to live in the past, right? And I have this saying, and my saying is, make sure that you do not cheat on your future with your past because you're living in the past, right? And so I think that there's some great lessons to be learned there. Talk to me about the idea of refusing to accept failure because obviously you said, hey, maybe this is not for me. You run away when you went ahead and joined this, but then you became very successful. Talk to me about that thought process.
So I'll give you the perspective of an operations officer.
Hmm.
An operations officer's job at the end of the day is to steal secrets and recruit spies. That's what people in the CIA do. And if you think about it, who was the first spy you remember reading about in history? It would have been Phineas and Caleb, who were sent into Jericho to collect information for Joshua the first, I think,
Hmm.
so that the Israeli army could attack there, blah, blah, blah. So that tells you how old espionage is. they talk about prostitution being the oldest profession. Well, if it is, we're the second oldest. We're right there with them because we play on the same weakness. We play on the ego.
Hmm.
So, from that perspective, uh, everything you do, if it doesn't work, what do you do? As long as you don't quit, you haven't failed. As long as you go back and say, okay, this didn't work, but this part did work, so let's do this, and then let's change this and that, and you can find a way forward. I'm not saying it's not frustrating or depressing or that you won't get aggravated with some things in the process, but the trick to being an adult is to deal with those emotions, to step back. Maybe you need to go have a cup of coffee or some beverage, and then come back and start all over again, applying the lessons that you've learned. And that's one thing that I know at my age, I'm learning something new every day.
Yeah.
And when you think you know everything, God has a sense of humor. He is
Yeah.
going to show you that you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 definitely. Talk to me about, how you, I think, people growing up, right? There's always that idea of I want to be a police officer, I want to be a fireman, I want to be like this, those being a doctor. I think like at least from my era, or at least me growing up, I always saw anything within that to be like, wow, that's huge, right? How did you end it in the role you were, right? Because you did a lot of great things with the CIA. Like that's huge, and I think that by itself, like being able to do that, travel all over the world with that. How did you end it with that? What kind of preparation you had to do mentally to be able to even get into something like that, right? Because a lot of people don't even think of that.
So I grew up in the era of Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. You recognize that name?
I don't.
He was the star of the TV series FBI.
Okay.
So I grew up watching it. And as I got older, I left home when I was 20. I joined the Peace Corps. And then I spent time in North Africa and Central Africa. I learned two languages, lived in other places besides that, finished up my bachelor's and master's degree. And so then I went to work for international businesses doing different things. But that kind of background made me a very good candidate to
Mm,
spend a couple years in the CIA because I can travel anywhere. I don't care. I got a passport. I'll go there. Doesn't
yeah.
bother me.
Right.
Um, and I'm willing to do that. I speak or have spoken five different languages in my lifetime.
Hmm.
So all of that made it easy for me to spend the last 2 or 3 years working for the agency and working to stop the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. And I, 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 I always tell people this when I do these kinds of interviews and these kinds of shows that the audience should take a lot of satisfaction from the fact that the CIA operations officers and reports officers, everybody that works there, they are the best that this country has to offer.
Mm,
They could do another job and make more money, but they don't. They do it because they're dedicated to the American people, they're dedicated to the American Constitution,
yeah.
and want to see it protected and defended. And I took a lot of pride in the couple of years that I did that. I think it's important that everybody at some point in their career serve the greater good. And I did it as a Peace Corps volunteer at the beginning, and then I did it at the end as well. So I think being able to serve your fellow man is something that everybody should try to incorporate at some point
Yeah.
in their career, and they'll find it very satisfying. And we need it. We need everybody's help to get through the day. Everybody brings a different skill set, different languages, different technologies, whatever the case may be. So that's how we serve the American people, and I think we need to continue to be service minded.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I love that. Can you share anything about what would have been maybe one of your biggest aha moments? Kind of going through that. I think there's a lot of things you've learned through that, but not just an aha moment for that period of time. Something that actually has helped you now in terms of the place you are, because right, you have multiple books, you're a public speaker, you're doing a lot of different things. And so, what is an aha moment that is not helping you serve and deliver a message to those that are listening to you, to those that are following you, to for a greater good?
Probably the biggest aha moment I had was as a 20-year-old, and 20-year-olds know everything.
Yeah,
We've
for
got
sure.
all the answers.
Yeah.
And my aha moment came when I was in Tunisia, which is North Africa, and I was working on farm machinery and I was helping farmers, adjust their equipment and make sure it operates properly. And here I was thinking I was going to tell this 50-year-old farmer who'd been doing it this way for decades how he should set his machine. And the fact they tolerated me because I was just some skinny white boy from America. Um, but they just kind of looked at me and went, no. So that is a ego adjustment. And at some point, I think everybody has to go through an adjustment to their ego when they realize they don't know near as much as they think they do, that they're not near as smart as they think they are. So it all comes back down to hard work.
Mm,
It doesn't really matter how smart you are. If you're willing to work hard, you will be successful.
okay. That could be a controversy, and actually want to tap into more of that. So I do agree with you. But what about those people that say, "Hey, why work hard when you can work smarter?"
They're splitting hairs, to be
Okay.
honest with you. Yeah, you can work smarter. You should work smarter. You should try finding better ways to do things. That's all part of working hard. You're working hard. You're looking at the system you're inside of
Hmm.
and trying to figure out the best way to generate the results that you want. So that's what you're doing. And as long as you're focusing on that, again, that's working smarter also. You're looking for an easier way to do things.
Right.
What's the easiest way to get from point A to point B or to get the desired outcome? You're doing that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing your job right.
Gotcha, gotcha. No, that makes sense. I have here in my notes, and I want to kind of dive into this. It sounds pretty interesting, right? And you said sometimes survival in difficult situations is a matter of waking up every morning, putting your pants on, and stepping out of the front door. Sometimes you just have to go along for the ride. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, we all have periods in our life where you have a choice, and it all comes down to our individual choices. You can give up and quit life, or you can continue to not give up. And by not giving up, you win at the end of the day. So yes, you get up every day, maybe you don't like your job. Maybe you're not in a happy marriage. I've been in both those situations. But you still have to get up and get through the day. You still have to wake up every day and do the best that you can, make the best effort that you can, to be successful because no one is going to criticize you for trying your best. And they see that you're trying your best, and that tends to inspire other people
Hmm.
involved in whatever the situation may be, and they will help you as well along the way. You would be surprised. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I know there are many of them where you get a surprising hand up from somebody you weren't expecting it. Um, you don't know where it came from, but it came at the right moment, and that hand up made the difference.
Yeah.
So it's important to remember that, and it's important to also be a person willing to give somebody else a hand up.
Yeah, I love that, and that reminds me of kind of what you said. You got to be able to help other people, right? Or sometimes people are there to help you. It kind of reminds me of Jim Rohn talks about the average five, right? And when he talks about the average five, I kind of tend to take that and divide that into a category of three different groups of people, right? The first group of people will probably be, hey, within that average five, the first group of people will be maybe a mentor or someone that I can look up to that generally is looking to help me out, right? Is generally there for my interest, right? The second group of people will be people that are probably at the same playing field as I am. The difference is that instead of me competing with those people, they're actually edifying me. They're helping me through the process. They're not competing, right? They're there side by side helping me out, right? And then the last group of people, which is kind of what you talked about right now, once you've mastered that, now you're in a place where there's people that might be below you, not because they're lesser than you, but you were once there. Now this gives you the ability to reach down and lift them up to your level, right? And so to me, that's kind of like the average five, right? When you get yourself along a group of people in those categories, and you've done a lot of that stuff, right? Through your public speaking, through your books. I know you have multiple different books going on. So talk to me a little bit about some of the books that you have worked on that people should definitely get a copy of or pick up for their knowledge.
The first one I wrote, Human for Humanity. Human is the abbreviation of human intelligence.
Okay.
You have SIGINT, which is signals intelligence. You have ELINT, which is electronics intelligence, and you have HUMINT. And that was the kind of intelligence that I collected as a operations officer. So what I'm saying in that title is my book is about how you get through the day and how do you overcome challenges. And I don't so much tell people how to overcome challenges as tell them the challenges that I have overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my book, it's about the places that I've been and some of the places I've seen. I compare Lebanon to Whitney Houston.
Okay.
Whitney Houston, I think you're probably old enough to remember when she first came out. Was she smoking hot? Could she sing? Could she dance? She had the moves. She was just amazing. Beirut is very much the same way. It's called the Pearl of the Mediterranean. Excuse me, the Pearl of the Mediterranean. It's a former French colony. It has multiple influences because Beirut's a port city. It's got Turkish influence, North African influence, Israeli influence, everything. And all those influences generally, not always, generally all the best stuff percolates to the top.
Mm.
So you get the best of all those worlds. And so that was Beirut doing a Whitney Houston song and dance, if I can say that,
Yeah.
right up until 1985. And then, like Whitney Houston, it had a bad ending because that's when all the civil wars started
Mm.
between I'm afraid to use the term terrorist organization, but that's what Hamas is. Between Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Israelis and the U.S., we're just as guilty because we're in there helping fight all these conflicts to support our foreign policy. It all kind of went down the tubes, and it's the same thing as Whitney Houston. Beirut is, as I said, it was a beautiful city, but it's kind of gone down the path of Whitney Houston, and they need to step back. I think they're trying to now, to be honest with you, based on what I'm following, between I'm going to call it a pseudo peace in Syria and the Israelis. Nobody wants to mess with. Let's face it, nobody wants to mess with the Israelis.
Mm-hmm.
They can do things that the U.S. can't do. I don't know if you recall the little beeper exercise that they had or pager exercise that they had, where
Yep.
all those pagers went off at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody could have done that but the Israelis.
Right.
So now you have a conflict that we need to get stable. Because once it's stable, that part of the world is fascinating. It's the cradle of civilization. That's the book that I'm writing right now, is the history of Damascus. And Damascus has been has been a city, a location since about 6,000 years BC. So that's how long people have been living there, working there, eating there, farming there, doing all the things of life there. So it's so old but it's got such amazing infrastructure and roads that are amazing. I mean, I've been to Damascus many times, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with Acts chapter 9, but
Mm-hmm.
that's Saul's conversion to Paul on the road to Damascus.
Mm.
And he has a vision Ananias rather has a vision. The bishop has a vision that says, "Go see the man from Tarsus on the street called Straight." The street called Straight still exists.
Hmm.
It's one of the major streets from it's called Beb Sharki, Eastern Gate, I believe. Then it runs straight down to the Umayyad Mosque in downtown Damascus. And there's something about walking down a street that's written about in the Bible
Yeah.
that makes you feel kind of small. Let's face it, I might live 60, 70, 80 years, but we're still talking about Jesus, and he was on the earth 2,000 years ago.
Right.
So we need to keep ourselves in perspective. Or God has a sense of humor, and he will
Right.
help adjust your ego
Yeah.
if you don't do it yourself. So that was part of the fascination of going to Damascus, of traveling in that part of the world, of walking down a street that's written about in the Bible. And if you recall, they also talk about St. Paul's underground church,
Mm-hmm.
and his underground church still exists in Damascus.
Mm.
It's about 700 feet off of the street called Straight. And so you go down there and it's underground. So you go down some steps. One of the Catholic brotherhoods maintain it. I forget which one. But you go down there, you go downstairs, you can sit there. And every time I went there, I would go down into that chapel and I would say a prayer, knowing that I'm in a place that has been written about and practiced our faith for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
That's that's got meaning, and that's one thing that one perspective that we don't really have a lot of in this country, because we're about to celebrate our 250th anniversary, and that we take pride in that. In 250 years, this country has gone farther than any other country in the world, and we should take a great deal of pride in that. But we should not. We have to be careful with pride.
Right.
Pride goeth before the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
because again, Damascus has been there 6,000 years or so, 8,000 years or so. So when you compare it to 250 years, okay, they've been around longer. Maybe
Right.
we ought to kind of look at what they're doing also.
Right.
And that's something we're not so good at.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. So I love that. And then recently you were part of also another book collaboration, Extraordinary Trauma to Extraordinary Dreams. Talk a little bit about the things you talked about in that book, and what are maybe some of the major lessons or things you want people to walk away with.
So that book is a compilation. Each author was required to contribute 3,000 words,
Hmm.
not 3,003 or 2,997, but 3,000 words.
Yep.
She holds you to it
Yep.
about something which we've had to overcome in our life.
Hmm.
And so I personally talk about overcoming what I've already described as a very, very rough childhood.
Yeah.
Um, and, I'm not looking for sympathy.
Right.
There are lots of other people that go through it as well.
When people learn through that, and that's the biggest thing, through your experiences, they can
Right.
learn how they can overcome that for sure.
Most of what I talk about is simply not quitting. There are other ways people could have coped than what I coped, the way I coped. I ran away from home at the age of 20.
Yeah.
That's how I coped with it.
Right.
Other folks tend to go down a darker path involving substance abuse, and pick your substance. There's lots
Right.
of them out there that you can abuse, or they get into relationship abuse. They find themselves in an abusive relationship because that's what they're comfortable with, because that's what they grew up with. And I'm not saying I had any abuse in my growing up.
Right.
Um, but the hardest part is to put that behind and walk away.
Mm.
And there's maybe lots of reasons why you don't want to do that. But sometimes our self-preservation requires us to walk away.
Yeah.
And maybe we can revisit it after a couple of years, and I certainly did. Um, and when I left at the age of 20, I left Ohio and I swore I'd never be back. And with very few exceptions, I have not gone back to Ohio. And I think I went for my father's funeral, my mother's funeral, but
Yeah.
that's about it. I have no real desire to be integrated back into the family or the culture or the climate or anything.
Yeah.
So I made the decision, nothing's going to stop me.
Mm.
I'm going to be successful. I had no idea how, but I know that quitting is the first path to being not successful. So you have to keep trying new things. And we're not very good at that as a culture and as a climate. My best friend is still up in Ohio. He still lives in the same county that he grew up in. He was a mile down the road from me, and I used to go down there and spend weeks at a time there working on his family farm with him. He's a couple years older than I am, but we baled hay and cleaned stalls and did all kinds of stuff like that. And his dad paid me a modest sum. I think I started at 50 cents an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was, he paid me something. So, that was my escape
Mm.
to get away from my family. And I think one thing that we always have to be careful of is there's lots of people in turmoil today for various reasons. It's part of being in a society. But what we have to do is not give up hope or quit. And that doesn't mean that we won't have bad days. But I think that we have to continue to push forward. A lot of people will find strength in prayer. That's not everybody's solution. That was one of my solutions. And at the end of the day, it was that faith that got me through in many respects.
Yeah. Yeah. I love there's three things that I want to point out that you said that are very powerful. Number one was you made the decision, right? And oftentimes people, again, people say, you know what, I don't know if I can do this, right? And it really starts with that decision, right? People are not afraid of the decision. The decision is the easy part. It's like I have to decide, am I doing this or am I not doing that? The reason why people do not decide is because they're afraid of the commitment and or they're afraid of the aftermath, right? The easy part is making the decision, to an extent, but because of the aftermath, you don't make the decision. So I love the fact that you said, hey, I made the decision, right? That this is what's gonna take place, right? I decided. The second thing you talked about is you knew, right? You were certain, you were convinced that you were going to be successful. You didn't know how, but you were going to make it. Again, going back to that, a lot of people first want to figure out how am I going to do this? How can I find the money? How can I do X, Y, and Z? How can I write the book, right? Again, the how is the aftermath. First, you have to decide, then you have to be certain, and you got to be committed on doing that, which is exactly what you did. And the last thing you said that I really enjoyed is the fact that you had faith. You had faith. Now, doesn't matter, the people that are listening to us, whether they believe in God or a greater being or a greater power, whatever that might be, you have to have faith in you, in yourself, in something to be able to move forward. So you're kind of getting all these different things in place to get you to where you are now. Again, multiple different books, public speaker, and doing a lot of different things. Tell me a bit about your public speaking and when you get the opportunity to speak into other people's lives in guiding them.
It's always an opportunity, a great opportunity to share the lessons that we've learned. And if in my speaking or my writing, I can positively influence one person, then that's a good day for me
Mm,
because we have to do it one person at a time.
right.
And we can't stop reaching out. We can't stop extending our hand. Now, there may be days when I don't feel like extending my hand, when it takes more effort on my part. There may be days when I'll say, okay, I'm going to stay in bed today.
Right.
We all have days like that, and there's nothing wrong with taking a mental health day
Right.
and getting yourself squared away. So we still have to be sure that we're sticking out the hand to help somebody else up.
Yeah, I love that. Jeffrey, where can people find out about you and connect with you?
There's a couple different ways right now. The easiest way is on LinkedIn. And my name there is Jeffrey Sanow. I'm sure you can spell it properly for
Yep.
them. And on LinkedIn is the easiest way. My website is going through some changes. Eventually it'll get back up, but it's jeffreysanow.com. Like I said, the easiest way, or send me an email. My email address is very easy. It's my last name, Sanow, and the zip code where I live.
Hmm.
34668, Port Richey. So at gmail.com. So it's Sano34668 at gmail.com. They want to send me an email. I'm happy to engage with anybody and everybody. In many circumstances, there's no right or wrong answer. There's just what works for you.
Right.
So I know what worked for me, and I'd be happy to engage with anybody else that would like to.
Awesome. And Jeffrey, let me ask you this. Do you have any kind of daily rituals, any kind of daily habits, things that you have to do every single day to kind of get you up and going on a day-to-day basis?
Cup of coffee.
All right.
Coffee cup. There
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Cup of coffee. Taking some time for yourself to breathe in,
Okay.
some deep breaths, and just being prepared to face the day. I know what I have going on the rest of the day until I get back to bed in, 18 hours.
Yeah.
And you just have to have some kind of plan in your head. If there's that saying, if you don't,
If you fail to
if you,
plan, you plan to fail.
yeah, that's
Yep.
what I was looking for. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
So even if it's just a plan on, okay, I got to go to the store, I got to get gas in my car, and I got to get to work by whatever time. Okay, that's a plan.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a complicated plan, it doesn't have to be written out and strategically,
Yeah.
but try and have a plan every time you wake up. What are you going to do that day? And there's nothing wrong with saying, today I'm going to rock the world by watching TV all day because I
Right.
need a break. Okay, take a break.
Yeah.
So you try and keep that in perspective.
Yeah. I love that. My last question for you is for the people that are listening to us or watching us. If they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing you can say to them so they can start overcoming that challenge?
Keep the faith. You have to have faith in something. There are many people who face challenges, and I don't want to go on a religious rant here,
Hmm.
but many times a religious leader, and notice I'm not calling on a specific religion,
Yeah, right.
just a religious leader, whether it's Islamic, whether it's Jewish, whether it's Christian, if you're facing challenges you don't think you can overcome, look back to your history and find a religious leader and go talk to him.
Mm,
They'll talk to anybody at
yeah,
any time. And they'll try and help you see a way forward because that's what they're here for.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Well, Jeffrey, this is awesome. Any last minute words you want to say before I let you go?
Buy my book, read my book, give me comments on my book. I love any feedback that you may have. I've gotten some really good feedback on Human for Humanity. I've gotten some good feedback on my book on Damascus. Um, and right now, I'm working on a third book, which is essentially the history of Christianity
Mm,
and how it came about and where it started from. And it's been a fascinating topic for me to research because
yeah, of
you
course.
and I we go to church and we read the Bible or however we celebrate. We don't think, how did Peter and Paul, who didn't like each other?
Mm,
I mean, they really didn't like each other. How did they manage to become foundational to our religion? And it's a very interesting history, and I've enjoyed researching it and writing it. And I'm most of the way through that book now. I think I'll finish the edits here in a couple days. But I think it's important that if you want to find a book, my book, I'd love it if you buy it.
yeah,
Um, but find something that will help you find a way forward. There's stuff out there.
I love that. Yeah,
No one should feel that they can't find help. There's all kinds of help out there.
yeah.
You can't stop looking.
Yeah, no, and as a fellow writer, I believe on that for sure. I think there's so much information, and obviously, just like anything, there's good information that you consume. There's bad information, or maybe less likely information that you can consume. And you said it right. There's so much great stuff that you can go out and get and get educated, get acclimated. Learn how to move forward and utilize that to your benefit to make sure that as you're moving forward in life, you're hitting the right steps. So, Jeffrey, again, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate for your assistance here. For the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure that you guys go ahead and follow Jeffrey on LinkedIn. I'll have all the information for you. And make sure that you guys share this message because somebody definitely needs to hear it. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.